So how does a kid from Saskatchewan ever become an Olympian that wins a bronze medal 6.5 years after he started, where there are no mountains to ski on? You could drive the 6.5 hours one way every weekend, but that would be the hard way. The better question is, how did a kid from Saskatchewan who had a memory erasing concussion at 10 years of age, laid in a coma for months, wake up, go through months of rehabilitation, then told we have no place for your kind in school, work for his dad on the farm, and 6.5 years later win a bronze medal at the Olympics at 18? Parents told my parents there was no chance. Kids told me I would never make it. Coaches took my parents aside and told them I was wasting my time. Ski hill owners bought my father a coffee and told my dad he was wasting his money because there was no chance I would ever develop a feel for the snow and the ability to know how to race at a high level. Have you ever been faced with this kind of a challenge? Have you ever had challenges like this that seem impossible? I'm Jungle Jim Hunter, and you're listening to 831 Living Your Best Life podcast, and our goal is to empower you and inspire you by listening on your favorite podcast provider. Or you can go to junglejimhunter.com and download it, and you can subscribe and click on like, and we'll help you with your best and biggest challenge so you can live your best life. The best question, however, is what can you learn from today's podcast that will help you live your best life? My dad was a unique individual because he said to each one of his sons, "Do you want to play hockey? If you do, then you build the rink." Yes, that's what he said. And then he got the tractor and we went to work. We leveled the ground 60 by 80 the first time we built it in front of the house and the barn. And we dug the post holes and we built the board frames 2 foot by 8 feet. And he bought the thinnest plywood available, and then we welded the nets. At 4 a.m. he dressed us and he gave us a stick and a hot chocolate, and we would skate till 6. We would milk the cows, do our chores, carry the chop bales, carry the bales, milk the cows by hand, go to school, come home and repeat the process in reverse. Daily till the ice melted. Under a yard light. Why not thicker plywood? Because that was the way my dad taught us to become all that we could be. Because he would say, "You get thin plywood because you can shoot the puck through the plywood and then I will replace it." And why only 2 feet high? Because you couldn't raise the puck. But guess what he was doing? He was laying down the incentive and pushing us to our limits to do it as hard and as fast as we possibly could. Eventually, we had to build the lights 16 feet apart and drive the tractor out to operate the bucket to put them in place before the winter snow came. And at the end of the spring, tear it all down and store it. What's the point? 3 hours a day, 2 to 10 years, from age 2 to age 10, 9 years, 5,100 hours on that ice, 212.5 days worth of skating. And I learned everything there was to learn about inside edge, outside edge. And I carried chop and bales, 250,000 pounds of work, and then milking the cows to build muscular arms and forearms and hands. I became a skier because I was already prepared for it. And I used hockey and skating to prepare myself in the off-season each year for the next year. You see, if you have a father that is innovative and thinks about what he's trying to do to get the most out of you, he doesn't let a limitation like no mountain stop you. During the time that I ran the General Mills Wayne Gretzky golf tournament, they would ask me if I wanted to play or drive Wayne Gretzky around to play with the teams. I said, drive. Why? Because I had 100 questions I wanted to ask him, but one question I wanted answered. Why do you think you can do what you do? He said, my dad built the rink. It was small, and I learned to dip and dive and dodge and turn in a tight corner and do whatever I could, but then we celebrated everything I did. It brought me back to the celebrations I had with my dad on the things we would learn on that rink between the house and the barn. You see, I'm not a talented guy. I was a bookworm. I was the guy you picked last for your team because, well, I didn't show much interest in sports. My dad was a unique individual because he was a teenager during the dirty 30s, and then World War II came along in the 40s, and then he was sick all the time until 1961, till they found out what was wrong with him. But he was committed to one thing, preparing his children to be able to stand on their own 2 feet by the age of puberty. What am I saying? Everything I did, you can do. You may not want to be a hockey player, and I'm sure that few children under the age of 12 are listening to this podcast, but the point is, you may be a parent of a child, or you may be somebody that's already grown up, and you wished you'd have done all these things. If you're an adult and have a dream, you can set a time and you can do what my dad did. You can dare yourself personally. In other words, personal discipline, personal accountability, personal responsibility, and personal empowerment. If you're getting others to do for you what you can do for yourself, or if you are blaming others for your current situation, then you haven't challenged yourself to be the best you can be. You can have the best life ever if you are willing to simply challenge yourself personally. My quote for the day comes from my dad. Every time you complained, he would stop and look at you and then say, "Son, you'll be tomorrow what you are today, only more so." What are you becoming today? What will you be like tomorrow? Is it time to challenge yourself to say, I don't need a mountain, I can create my own and solve it? I'm Jungle Jim Hunter, and you've been listening to 831 Living Your Best Life podcast. I hope you're inspired and empowered, and you will listen again tomorrow on your favorite podcast provider. Thank you so much. And tomorrow, we're going to talk about the 4 aspects of the personal challenge I've given you. Thanks for listening.